What's up everybody, Noble Comics here. Today I want to try and definitively scale the Dragon Ball universe with Marvel and DC. I've done a few videos like this in the past. I've talked about how comics and anime talk about power differently and strength differently. I've talked about how Goku scales to Superman and other characters like that directly in, various versus battles and things. But I want to sort of definitively rank each character's relative power, or at least the relative power levels to one another, so that we can talk about these characters and do different versus battles and stuff and have a better understanding of what it is that we're talking about. One thing I do want to say, again, just to kind of recap my previous points, is that whenever we're talking about power and strength, that is different. Because a lot of times in anime, whenever they say strength or they say that someone is strong, they are saying that that person is powerful. Versus in the comics, power is usually something a little bit different. Strength is its own thing, that's lifting strength, and speed is its own thing. Power is more like having control over something, along with just general destructive output or something like that. And I'll talk about that in more detail. But to make it as easy as possible, the way I'm going to try and rank this is by potential power output, potential destructive capability of these different universes. And I do want to start with the Dragon Ball universe. So, going all the way back to, the Battle of Gods, where Goku first went Super Saiyan God, we saw his Super Saiyan 3 version just get a two-shot, no diff by Beerus. And we do know that Super Saiyan 3 was roughly galaxy level because he scaled directly to Buu, and Buu was roughly galaxy level, maybe slightly lower depending on the translation that you're reading on his power. But we do know that Beerus is way more powerful. And specifically, this is sort of like a base level lazy Beerus who's been out of training, and he was still way, way more powerful. Whenever Goku went Super Saiyan God and the two of them fought, he was fighting Beerus at 70% power, and their hits were shaking the universe. And shaking the universe is not directly destroying the universe, so it doesn't quite scale directly. So I think you could reasonably say that Super Saiyan God Goku was multi-galaxy, low universal, and I'm fine even saying low universal because I know that form has gotten much more powerful as the series, anime and manga have gone on, and Beerus has gotten far more powerful as well. So I'm fine saying that Super Saiyan God Goku is low universal. So Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan, or Super Saiyan Blue, is magnitudes more powerful than that. So I'd say it's not unrealistic to say that Super Saiyan Blue is a multi-universal character in terms of power. Scaling above that to Ultra Instinct, we have a few things. First of all, we know that Jiren from the Tournament of Power was way more powerful than Super Saiyan Blue. And we do know that Ultra Instinct was roughly on par with Jiren. We also know Jiren was more powerful than his God of Destruction, and we can reason out that he was more powerful than Fuse Zamasu, who was at bare minimum universal, right? But he was more powerful than his God of Destruction. We also know here that Super Saiyan Blue Evolution Vegeta was more powerful than Top, and Top was a candidate to be a God of Destruction, so we know that he's on that power level as well. And again, Ultra Instinct, Ultra Ego, everything is above that. So from all of that information, I think that we can make the determination that the Ultra Instinct level characters, which would be Ultra Instinct, Ultra Ego, I think Orange Piccolo is stated to be on that level as well, maybe slightly less powerful. Beast Gohan, who may be slightly more powerful, they're all on that level as well. Jiren's on that level as well. And I'm going to say that is on the same level as the Gods of Destruction. I know that Beerus is more powerful, but he's also the most powerful God of Destruction, so I think it's unfair to have him being kind of an outlier to move the entirety of the category of Gods of Destruction. I think that they are relatively on the same level, and I would say that they are, again, multi-universal, if not multiversal, in terms of power. And then Broly is somewhere in between Super Saiyan Blue and Ultra Instinct, presumably, so he falls in there somewhere. But so those are our categories so far, the Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Blue, and then the UI levels of power. Moving over to Marvel, looking at what we know there. Marvel does have certain names for their tiers of characters, so we're going to start with the Herald level characters. And these are your typical very strong characters like Thor, Hulk, Hyperion, Sentry, these types of characters, right? And I think consistently these characters are shown to be around galaxy level power, being able to easily destroy planets and things like that when they're exerting themselves, while also being able to go toe-to-toe with galaxy level plus beings. And these characters usually at their higher end do have like universal feats. I'm thinking of Thor in particular, I think has some multiversal feats that push them up, but consistently I'd say they're probably around that galaxy level of power. Above them, we have the sort of team buster tier of characters. These are people who could fight entire teams at once, like the entire Avengers at once, or like the entirety of Earth's heroes at once. These are characters like Thanos, and they are consistently above your Herald tier characters, right? Like Thanos can consistently, realistically, like 10 out of 10 times, but you know, the plot can sometimes be playing with that. At least 9 out of 10 times, Thanos is winning a 1v1 versus Thor, Hulk, Silver Surfer, any of these characters, usually just absolutely dominating them. And again, these characters usually have universal feats that, again, higher end, have some multiversal feats. Again, Thanos is who I'm thinking of in particular. Above this level, we have what Marvel calls the Skyfather tier. And these are people like Odin, these are people like Zeus, Dormammu. This would also maybe be like a starved Galactus, would probably be roughly here as well. And these are incredibly powerful beings. Though, again, power in comics is a little bit different. Because while I have no doubt that they can punch and kick and shoot lasers of very high power, which we have seen them do, right? It is still a comic book. But they also have control over something, domain over something. For example, Odin has control over like all of Asgardian magic. The spell on Mjolnir of like who is worthy to wield Thor, that's up to Odin's interpretation. He's the one who sets that. Odin can also manipulate existence, write people out of existence. He can manipulate people's souls. He can manipulate time, and he's like immune to time manipulation on his end. He can warp reality. He has a great degree of control over the universe and the multiverse and its laws and its energies and things like that. And that is where that great power comes from. So what I'm getting at is that the Skyfather characters are multiversal characters, but their power isn't quite the same as like the power of a Dragon Ball character, right? But I'll go over that in more detail towards the end. Moving over to DC, I have these characters called at the base here as Superman tier characters, though modern Superman might be a little bit higher. But Superman tier characters are much like the Herald tier characters, where they're roughly galaxy level at their base, and then they have up to, you know, universal, maybe even multiversal, but they have some higher end feats as well. Again, this is people like Superman, people like Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, etc. Above them are again this Team Buster tier, taking on the entirety of the Justice League at once, where we have people like Despero, maybe the avatars of Darkseid, who are consistently above that previous tier, putting them probably roughly around a universal base as well. And again, Rebirth Superman maybe jumps to this tier. And above that, we have what I'm calling the New God tier. And these are people like True Darkseid. These are people like Superboy Prime, where they're pretty much like omnipresent. They have some sort of influence over the multiverse or can affect the entire multiverse, while still being below higher tier characters like maybe the Spectre or something like that. And so I would place them as well at around a multiversal level. So looking at all of that I've just laid out, how do these characters scale directly? Well, you may have noticed I tried to make it easy on myself to how to scale these together. So this is kind of what we're looking at. We're saying that Super Saiyan God Goku roughly scales to Thor, who roughly scales to post-crisis Superman. I know we had Super Saiyan God at his base as universal, whereas with like Thor and Superman here, we had their base as galaxy. But again, I don't think it's a stretch to say that they are roughly equivalent, because again, we have seen higher end and lower end feats for all these characters really, that I think place them roughly equivalent in terms of power. Above that, we have Super Saiyan Blue Goku roughly scaling to Thanos, who is roughly scaling to a Darkseid avatar, and then maybe Rebirth Superman is here as well. I think that's definitely an argument that can be made, so I'll kind of put him here off to the side. Though even here we're starting to see that sort of change in terms of power and how power is quantified and expressed between these two mediums. Because with Goku, his power increases linearly, right? He's just getting stronger, he's getting faster, his abilities are hitting harder, his energy is greater. And so he's just scaling up and up and up. He's getting faster than before, stronger than before, hits harder. But people like Thanos, that scale isn't exactly the same. While sure, if you scale him to someone like Thor, he probably is stronger, maybe. He's definitely more durable, but I don't know if he's necessarily faster. While he is extremely powerful in the traditional sense, kind of like we just discussed, he also has different hacks at his disposal, right? He can manipulate molecules, he can manipulate energies. He's essentially death-proof. He is like existence erasure-proof. He survived different multiverses collapsing, and he has a wide variety of other very powerful abilities. So while yes, he is extremely strong, fast, and durable, there's a lot more that goes into the calculation of his power here and how he can influence or potentially destroy a universe than just strong, fast, shoot lasers, like in the Dragon Ball characters. And then above that, we have sort of the Ultra Instinct tier, right? Jiren, God of Destruction tier. And these are scaling roughly to the New God tier and the Skyfather tier. So we're saying that Ultra Instinct Goku is roughly equivalent to Odin, who is roughly equivalent to True Darkseid. True Darkseid may be a little bit higher. But again, rough equivalence of power. And here, again, is where we really start to see the difference in how power is expressed. Because again, Ultra Instinct, again, stronger, faster than before. With a few added things like, being able to like astral project an avatar of yourself. Time hacks seem to essentially not work on you, like we saw with Jiren versus Hit, and your destructive capability is off the scale. However, that is totally different, I would say, to like Odin's power. Because while Odin is also, I would say, multiversal, it's less like Odin could shoot a laser beam that would crack the fabric of the multiverse, like someone maybe like Goku could. For Odin, it's more like, again, he has control over time and reality and the soul and magic broadly. That's what makes him so powerful. It's not so much that he can take a whole bunch of punches like Jiren can, it's more so that he has these magical or energy force fields that simply cannot be penetrated. If he wants to beat somebody, he doesn't have to fight them in hand-to-hand combat like Goku, he can simply erase them from existence. So it may be weird to see these two next to each other as equivalent powers, but again, I do think that Goku's destructive capability is probably up there pretty high, but if the two of these characters were to fight, I think that Odin would have like no problem wiping out Ultra Instinct Goku, because his actual power set is so insanely powerful. If they tried to fist fight though, Goku would probably win. I think the same thing there goes for Darkseid. Being a powerful being with a powerful influence and control, unless someone who is like hitting the gym every day and getting stronger and stronger that way. Which does make it pretty hard to try and compare these characters in like a fight, but as far as, again, approximate equivalent power, I think that this is reasonable. So again, to kind of recap everything that we've gone over here, we're saying that Super Saiyan God Goku is roughly on that Thor or Superman level. And I think there it is more of just a straight fight, because with Thor and Superman, a lot of it is being fast and strong and shooting energy also, right? It's less reality manipulation abilities, and so I think they can be scaled. And if anything, Super Saiyan God might have a slight advantage unless we're just looking at high-end feats from these characters, then probably not. Super Saiyan Blue tier is where we see that split start, where the anime's description of power and how that's shown is over here, and sort of the comic book description of power and how that's mostly told is over here, to where we're not really having the same kind of fight. Comic book characters, while they do punch and kick and things like that, that's not the primary way of like my multiversal power. It's more, what I have control over, what I can do. I can manipulate magic and existence and time and everything. And then that disconnect is at its greatest, of course, the higher you go up to the Skyfather tier, and Odin is just a completely different category of character to somebody like Goku, even if, again, they're roughly equivalent in power. The good thing about that, though, is that if these characters were to fight, it at least does make it interesting, because there are two completely different types of characters who have their own different win conditions. There is a actual way that each of them could theoretically win the fight, but it is a bad thing because anime fans are seeing it from an anime point of view and comic fans are seeing it from a comic point of view. So the anime fans are thinking, well, if these two characters fight, as in fist fight, of course Odin's going to lose. He has no way to counteract the speed, And comic book fans are thinking, well, if these two characters fight, as in engage in combat, well, Odin can just erase them from existence, on their end. But at the end of the day, this is all just my opinion, man. But do let me know what you think. Do you think that these scalings are roughly correct? Do you think that certain characters are placed too high or too low? Let me know what you guys think. And I will see you in the next video. Take care.